A single word dropped into my mind, and it changed the entire direction of my week. And not because the word was special on its own, not because of what it led me to, but because it caught my attention instantly. Mostly because it didn't belong in my train of thought at all. And when something is that out of place, I've learned never to ignore it. So let me explain something about the way my mind works. My brain is wired a bit differently. I've always had the ability to notice the unusual, patterns, themes, repeating ideas, or symbols that don't quite fit. Sometimes meaning clicks instantly. Other times it lands hours later. A delayed snap insight, you could call it, where everything suddenly comes together all at once. I didn't always understand this about myself. And honestly, I used to get distracted too easily to follow those little breadcrumbs all the way to the end. But this time, for whatever reason, I stayed with it. For the first time, I tracked synchronicity in real time. From the moment it appeared, through each shift in meaning to each tiny breadcrumb, all the way to the pattern waiting at the end. And it was nothing short of an amazing experience for me. And somehow, it all started with a single word. On December 1st, completely out of nowhere, this word dropped into my mind: juniper. It didn't come from anything I was thinking about. It wasn't connected to my day. It wasn't something I had read or seen or even cared about recently, or really at all. I'd never used juniper in a sentence until now. So as you can imagine, when that popped into my mind, it caught my attention like, where the heck did that come from? And that is exactly why I paid attention to this one. When a word arrives that suddenly and feels that out of place, that's usually the first sign that something is unfolding. Later that same day, something else happened. It didn't take long, just a few hours, before another thought surfaced. I suddenly realized that juniper sounds almost exactly like Jupiter, and that caught my attention even more. You see, when a word arrives out of nowhere and then echoes something bigger, that's usually the second breadcrumb. The next day, December 2nd, everything shifted. I wrote the two words out: juniper, Jupiter. And that's when I saw it. They each have 7 letters. 7 has always been one of those numbers that follows me. But even without attaching meaning, seeing the symmetry was too precise to ignore. And here's where things get even more interesting. I noticed all this the day before my birthday. The timing felt too clean to ignore. December 1st, the word drops in. December 2nd, the pattern sharpens. December 3rd, the beginning of my next personal cycle. It felt intentional. But there was something else. Juniper wasn't the only 7-letter word. Another one had been sitting quietly in the background: jasmine. My work password. Another plant, in this case a flower, another 7-letter word. And I didn't realize it then, but jasmine had been the first breadcrumb, the tiny beginning of a much bigger pattern. Jasmine, juniper, Jupiter. 3 words, 3 sevens, 3 layers. When I stepped back, I realized this wasn't a list of coincidences. It was a progression, what is called a synchronicity cascade. Jasmine was the micro, the everyday detail. Juniper was the medium, the interruption. Jupiter, the macro, the expansion. Each step activated the next. The pattern was building itself. And this is what surprised me most. The final piece didn't show up symbolically at all. It showed up in something practical. My work system needed a password update. ADP, the same place Jasmine as my password had lived quietly before any of this began. It tied the entire sequence back into real life. My work, my stability, my financials. The signs weren't pulling me away from my life, they were leading me into it. Up to this point, everything I shared was just the timeline. But once the entire pattern revealed itself, the timing, the words, the parallels, the meaning came into focus. It wasn't random, it wasn't loud, it was intentional. Each word represented a scale of my life. Jasmine, the micro. Juniper, the medium. Jupiter, the macro. Once I saw that progression, I understood the shape of the message. They weren't random words. Jasmine, familiar and comforting. Juniper, unexpected and attention-grabbing. Jupiter, expansive, symbolic, directional. They were chosen. Each one carried its own meaning. The progression wasn't just symbolic, though. It was psychological. Juniper was the interruption. Jasmine was the reflection. Jupiter was the alignment. 3 images of awareness unfolding in real time. When everything came together, I realized this pattern wasn't about the words themselves. It revealed timing. It revealed identity. It revealed alignment. And here's where the meaning became even clearer when I looked at where the first breadcrumb had appeared. Jasmine wasn't connected to my personal life. It was connected to my job, my routine, my work life, my stability, my finances. Right before any of this started happening, I had glanced at my work ADP password with the thought that I'm going to have to change this soon, the one with Jasmine as a password. So the word was already sitting at the center of the part of my life that was beginning to shift. But Jasmine also carried personal meaning for me. It was the name of my beloved dog who passed away a couple of years ago. So in this sequence, Jasmine served 2 purposes at once. The micro-practical, tied to my work and finances, and the micro-personal, carrying a familiar emotional softness for me. It was a gentle beginning before everything widened into something much bigger. And that's where Jupiter comes in. I'm a Sagittarius, which means Jupiter rules my sun sign. It's my ruling planet, so to speak. Jupiter symbolizes expansion, timing, opportunity, and those moments when life opens. And at that exact moment, Jupiter was transiting my first house of identity, new beginnings, the start of a new chapter. The first house is very important in the chart. So Jupiter transiting the first house is very significant for personal expansion. Jupiter signaled the start of a new chapter. So let's look at it. A 7-letter word arriving as I entered my 7 personal year in numerology, the year of clarity and revelation. The pattern didn't predict the future. It revealed the present and the direction things were already shifting. But it did give me something just as important, a heads up, so to speak, a quiet encouragement to trust what was changing, to trust myself. And it felt like something was completing, a chapter settling into place, just enough for a new one to open.